MyCore is on a mission to be the world's most people-centric company. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the core of people. I'm your host, Nathan Bourne, and I invite you to join me as we deep dive into the personal and professional lives of our guests. We're going to learn who they are, why they exist, and what they do. We're going to hear their stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In other words, we're going to talk to some really cool people. Welcome to the MyCore podcast. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Nathan Bourne here with the MyCore podcast. I am stoked today for conversation number 015 with Greg Vetter. I'm going to call you Greg if that's okay.
That's how I go.
That's how I know you as, like, in the Maryland, like, I know the Vetter brothers and Greg, and that's your notoriety. It's funny because my wife calls me Nate. I've been known as Nate. And then I started putting this Nathan Bourne shit out. And I'm like, babe, that's my brand. Like, don't mess with my brand. She's like, okay, babe. So,
right.
But yeah, I'm super excited, man. I've known about you and your brothers from being from Maryland. One, kind of the lax scene. I was a wrestler. I wrestled in college, but played lacrosse. I just faced off and then got off the the field, right? And then just what you've done in business. And I've followed a bit of your journey from a distance. I don't know if you saw it, but when I messaged you on LinkedIn, I had sent you a message when you did the TED Talk. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this. In 2018, I just sent you like a little whatever. And then you message back. You know how it keeps the feed. You see kind of like awkward conversations from years past. But I'm excited to talk to you, man, and hear more about your story. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. I check all my messages. I'm not that big of a baller.
Right.
And so I'm pumped to be here.
My people will talk to, I always say, my assistant's assistant will talk to you about that.
Yeah. Someone who has the gregoryvetter.com email will reach out.
Right. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm excited to chat. And so you're born and raised Maryland. You're from Annapolis?
Yeah. So I was born in DC, and then my dad moved to Annapolis. My parents moved to Annapolis when I was 2. So I grew up just in Annapolis on the Severn River, being a normal, wild public school boy. And, man, getting into a lot of trouble before there was social media to incriminate you.
Right. Thank God. So Annapolis is funny because
there's no freaking paper trail of my devious deeds.
You'd have been canceled for sure.
As 100%.
It's funny, like people assume Annapolis is all wealth and all yuppie. And I mean, and obviously there's like an epicenter of that, but there's like another version of, and you allude to it, you kind of speak to it in your book, but you kind of like, if you know, you know. When you said that part, I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about. Like that's West Street. That's a different part of Annapolis. So you were like public school, Annapolis High School, not like St. Mary's, Severn, Spalding.
Right. No, I was public school. I was Rolling Knolls Elementary, which was great. Went to Bates Middle. First day, I'm like trying to get into the lunchroom, and there's a fight, and they're stomping somebody out, and it turns out to be our female principal, who didn't come back to school for 3 months because of,
they were stomping the principal,
probably traumatic brain injury or something like that. And,
in middle school, mind you.
And I went home. They're like, "How's your first day of school?" I'm like, "Well, you're not gonna believe what happened." And they're like, "Well, yep, you're going back tomorrow." So I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Weird.
Yeah, but Annapolis is interesting because it actually, I think it's per capita has more subsidized housing projects than anywhere else in the United States.
Right.
And so they all funnel into Annapolis Senior High School. And so you tell people, oh, Annapolis High School, they're like, oh, the Naval Academy and the water. I've been down to the yacht club. And you're like, yeah, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's not it.
Yeah, no, I know how to fight and dance. That's what I learned at Annapolis High School.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. Throughout the book, there was just so many like Maryland moments. Like when you talk about Dundalk, and like I'm like, dude, this is so good.
Yes.
And I think you and I have this in common. So I'm the fourth of 9 children, and I grew up very poor in Ocean City most of my life, right? But what was really challenging about the way I grew up, and I think you and I just probably align in this way, was that we had all this social capital. We were great at sports. We're not the worst looking people. We were involved in our church. Like we were socially ept, social beings. But we would go home and like there would be no food and the electricity would be turned off. And that might not be the level of like, 9 children and that level of poverty. But it's a weird like line to toe because now as a grown ass man, I don't really exist well in either of these worlds. So when I'm around people that haven't worked on themselves mentally and haven't built financial IQ, I'm like, these people. But then when I'm around the country clubbers and as you put it in the book, like the finance, like fucking bros, I'm like, fuck these guys, right? So it's weird to like almost hide in plain sight. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I'll often feel pretty freaking lonely. You know what I mean? Like in the midst of all of it.
Yeah. There's that for sure, because I think everybody has the need or the normal kind of social interaction with people is you find common ground.
Right.
And so for me, it was always you could find common ground public school, right? And like exactly what you said. You can find common ground for me. It was with sports. So, hey, yeah, I played lacrosse. That's great. But then there's never a full connection because of all the things you just said, right?
Right.
It's like, didn't have a problem with friends, didn't have a problem with sports per se. I mean, everybody has their own struggles of making the
Right.
team and getting
Right.
starting, playing time, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. But then you go to an elite college, which I don't know how elite mine was, but it was very wealthy.
Right.
And so you can't really relate with, the New England private prep schools at all. The first time I saw extreme wealth obviously was in college, and I'm meeting people that had, fourth generation wealth,
Yeah, dude.
and they're paying a luxury tax, and we're going to their homes in Darien and North Shore, Long Island, and they got live-in maids, and you're just like, holy shit,
Right.
this is a world I've never seen. Because you go to Annapolis High School, rich is someone has a very good job and they're
Right.
in their
The government job probably
right. The
that's
kids or
stable.
their peers like have a car that's not a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, right.
That is like,
Yeah.
oh,
Like a decent Honda Accord
right,
that's like works and has the new radio that you can pop off so nobody steals it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
right. Like people would be like, oh, you're rich, Greg, at Annapolis High School. It's like, because I had two parents and my dad.
Bro, I thought my friends were so rich and they lived in Ocean fucking Pines. You know what I mean? Like my boy, I was like, dude, the Dartys are rich. And then you grow up and you learn wealth and you build business and you go, wait, his mom taught at Shaw Elementary School and his dad worked for Purdue,
Right,
but they just had a boat and like
right,
an older jet ski.
right.
It's like they're the richest people ever.
Yeah, no, literally. It was like, oh my God, so and so's dad's an architect. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's a great job. Like
yeah,
you're very talented. But it
yeah.
was just mind blowing now. So finding the balance with my kids and instilling the values while kind of living a completely different life that I lived
Right.
is literally a full-time job.
Bro, that is like of all the things in my life, and I choose hard things in perpetuity. Just that's how I roll. That's the one thing that I'm like, my biggest fear is that my children become fucks. You know what I mean? And they're not. They're amazing because they have their mother, and somewhere in their DNA is that grit, but I had to learn it through like the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how in this master plan community in North Florida with that amenity center, which looks like a resort,
Yeah.
like they don't even like they're not spoiled, but they're like, I don't want to go to the pool. It's cold. I'm like,
Right.
it's 72 in February.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine you and I can relate in this. It's really challenging to try to like instill these values while being proud of the accomplishment because you did the thing that you said you were going to do long after the feeling in which you said it has left you, also known as commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the facilitation of that is creating this next generation. Like, how are ways? I mean, I see on your social media, you're like getting them up in the morning, getting them out. Like, how are ways that you're getting this grit like instilled in them, even though the natural elements of their life aren't probably affording it? Or
I
facilitating it. They are affording it, which is part of the problem.
I would say the first thing is I'm radically transparent with the world.
Yeah,
And
good.
so, some people are like, "Oh, honey, we're not going to talk about that." I'm like, "Let's talk about it. This
Yeah,
this is what is happening. This is why it happened. Here are the consequences." Then I am very, very focused on building the muscles and the habits of set a goal, write out why you care,
right.
put a plan in place, and then also understand the consequences when things don't go your way. So,
Good.
sports is probably the greatest thing ever for that
Right.
because you can always directly tie it back to what is our current goal? Are you reaching your goal?
Yeah.
Why are you not reaching your goal?
Right.
And it really comes down to something as simple as, Kobe Bryant talked about taking or working 2 hours a day on your craft. So
Right.
you can apply that same math to a grading system. And so the grading system then comes down to, all right, there's 7 days in a week. There's 14 hours in a week that you should be working on your craft. And it
Yep.
doesn't have to be 2 hours. It could be 200 shots on something or
Yep.
whatever your grading system is. And then in games or practices, if things don't go your way, what's your grade this week?
Right.
Out of 14 hours, how many hours did you work? Or out of 1,400 shots you should have taken, how many shots did you take? And that's a percentage.
Right.
And it's a grade just like school. So if it's below 50, it's an F.
Right.
And so all the way up to 100% is an A plus. If
Yeah,
you're
that's good.
not getting the results you want, do not, and this is where I think the grit of my youth comes in. I will support you and listen to you and let you cry on my shoulder
Right.
if you have a B plus or above
Right.
on
Right.
effort. I'm an
Right.
effort guy.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a goal guy. I'm not an
Yeah.
assist guy.
No.
I'm an effort guy.
No.
So if you've got a B plus or above on
Yeah.
effort in a week, the dedication to your craft, whatever the craft is, don't care.
Right. Right.
If it's business, if it's school, if it's dance, if it's trumpet, if it's lacrosse, if it's wrestling, I don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah. Do you, boo boo?
Do you?
Yeah.
But if it is a B plus or down and you had a bad game and you're upset that you didn't get the playing time you wanted, I simply go, how was this week for work?
Right.
Did you get an A?
Right.
You get a B, C, D, E, F? Then I don't want to hear it. And guess what? You're not allowed to cry about it. You're allowed to go home and you're allowed to work.
Yeah.
And when you put in the work, I'll listen.
Yeah.
Because my job here is to provide resources, honest feedback, love, and vision to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish because I've done all of those things.
Right.
Some have been successful, some have been failures,
Right.
all of which have given me the tools so that I can guide you along whatever journey you have. And so the grit side for me is literally just leading by example and the accountability side,
Yeah.
which is, I don't want to hear your shit unless you're putting in the work.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's some Division I athlete shit right there, right? I mean, that's just what it takes. I've heard it this way. What you're doing is so loud, I can't hear you. And, it's when you're leading by example like that, you're in it together, right? Like you're saying, like, I'm literally putting the same reps in. I might be at a different level, and every level has its devil. So like I'm slaying a dragon right now. I've slayed that dragon that you're on. It's the same damn process. It's just, do you all day, every day build, And I think people underestimate the mindset. I don't know of anything other than athletics that could prepare a person. I'm sure it's, at the higher levels of like band or something else, but for me, like wrestling was a prerequisite for life, and what people often, I think, underestimate about it, all sports, but particularly wrestling, is the performance aspect. Like, okay, yes, I cut weight. Yes, I'm in great shape. Yes, I trained, but there's a fucking spotlight, and everyone from the high school is going to watch me
Yes.
like a lion have to go against this other human being.
Yep.
And then when you get in, like, for example, I'm here in my studio. I've been here in this studio for 3 years, this office. Never before has a guy been doing fucking landscaping right there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know
Literally,
if you can hear it, but like
the day.
today's the day that homeboy is fucking weed whacking my window.
Yeah.
And like the whole time I'm still locked in with you
Yep.
because I'm like, I've dealt with all of the bullshit distractions and had to stay in the zone. So I think people don't realize that like all that isn't just like cause and effect. It's preparing you for the moments that matter. And there's all these moments in your book where I'm like, that's the fucking moment where he called it and closed the deal. Like everything you did up to that point was harnessing energy to pack the punch, to be like, get it fucking done. Close the deal. We need $1 million by Monday. You know what I mean? Like all that, I don't think people realize matters, but compounded over time.
People ask me all the time, like, how did athletics translate, or what did you learn in college that helped you in business? And I don't know if I actually learned anything in college outside of playing lacrosse taught me sacrifice, because you don't get to drink with all the other guys. You don't get to go to spring break with all the other students. And going back to your point of like being in the arena, you're in a stadium with your peers that is your entire social framework after you win or you lose.
Right.
And every action you have in that moment is going to be used for or against you later on that day in your own little ecosystem of existence. And so you sacrifice and you prepare and you focus and you do all this little stuff and you lift and you run and you're doing all the horrible shit.
Right.
But people are not prepared, as I see it today,
right,
to fail socially in front of their peers or be embarrassed in front of their peers.
Yes.
And that level of social anxiety that people are not built for anymore, that's really what I see. That's what prevents people from doing the hard shit. Because it's not things for the most part are not actually
not digging
hard.
Ditches out here,
right?
Guys.
We're not fucking.
We start our conversation, Greg, talking about what type of green your background is.
Right.
Like really, you know what I mean? Like, oh, is that Hunter? Is that Hunter?
Right. Yeah.
It's more like a jungle.
Right.
That's what we fucking did today. That's what we did compared to our ancestors.
Right.
You know, like, yeah. So I'm all with you on that. This is not hard shit. It's just social. It's all social construct that you're managing.
Yeah. And it's how you deal with my greatest fear, or it used to be, was the fear of failure. And really, when you dig into that, which I did for a long time, it's the shame. It is the shame from failure. So it's not actually you're not scared of failing.
Right.
You're scared of the consequences
Right.
socially, personally, spiritually of what failure is going to do to you, because it's really this battle with shame. And
Yeah.
so, you grow up and as an outsider looking in, which you said a little bit you are trying to
Right.
find that group.
Right.
That's also, I went to all these different CEO leadership retreats. You take your shoes
Right.
off, you don't use your cell phone, right?
Right.
You basically, what are my false negative beliefs about myself? And right. And it's and mine are,
Right.
I'm not good enough and I don't belong.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't belong. It's because, like,
I can relate to that. Yeah.
right, like, I'm not from the hood.
Right.
And then at the same time, I didn't go to a country club or a yacht
Yeah.
club growing up.
Right.
And so you're just sitting there in the middle, kind of looking around, going, all right, like, I guess I'm going to create my
Yeah.
legacy that these other people have had. Their fourth generation. Well, that had to start with somebody.
Yes.
Somebody had to come up with a family logo.
Yep.
Somebody had to fricking buy an estate at some point.
Totally.
Somebody had to lay their balls down on the fricking railroad tracks. I guess it's going to be me.
Right.
Because if it's not me, who the fuck is it going to be?
Right. If it is to be, you're like, it's up to me. Fuck it, I guess.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario? I go back to fucking selling insurance and cold calling every day? Like,
right.
that's actually pretty chill in the grand
Right.
scheme of the shit I've gone through.
That shit is so linear and just like do.
Make this many phone calls. I'll be your service representative. Like, let me,
Dude, I have this theory, and you're like teasing it out as you're sharing there, and I'd love to get your hot take on this. So I think there's a reason why guys, like leading men, guys that look like you, look like me, that were jocks or homecoming king or prom king, like that guy, right? And money's not everything, but it ranks up there with oxygen, and it's easy to count, right? So let's just speak to money for a second. Most leading men will never make $1 million a year or more. These are the guys that make 300 grand, 500 grand. Maybe they're on Wall Street, they make 700 grand, but they never become outliers because they won't go out of the spotlight. They won't go off the grid. They won't deal with the rejection and the failure. They play it safe, and they leverage their talent and their natural faculties and their allure. And then what happens is the guys like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, they get celebrated like, man, they are amazing. Like they just stayed in their garage and coded. No, they weren't invited to the party. They have no fucking friends. What are you talking about? Them and their three weirdos had nothing to do on Friday night anyway.
Right.
So they were like, fuck it, you want to build like a circuit board?
Right.
So I think the rarity in you, and this is something I've had to kind of like I've done this the last like decade, is it's like, dude, you got to go off the grid. You know what I mean? And like actually develop these skills and develop this character and develop this person without just leaning on the personality and leaning on the hair, and leaning on the allure. And just so few, I mean, I don't really know like you could probably count a few people that do that, and most don't. So I'm curious your take on that, which is like, how do you develop these skills that aren't just your natural faculties while continuing to play to your strengths? Because that's quite a journey of like eating shit and failing and failing and failing. And we have 3 core values at my core: walk by faith, lead with who, measure what matters. And I say all the time, if we had a 4th one, it would be radical transparency.
Yep.
So I loved how you said that. But I think you can do that through transparency, not being translucent, but being like, this is my shit and I'm working on it. and I bet you could relate to this too, where like part of my like cheat code on transparency is like I know the story is going to be so fucking epic that I want you to know how real and bad it is right now so that you're like, dude, he told me, and then I ran into him 3 years later, and holy shit, what an arc to that story. So I know I threw a lot at you there, but I just wanted to get your take on some of those things.
I yes, I think what it all comes down to is one, it's actually, I think, your friendships and ecosystem. You know, I a lot of people love having friends.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of really, really close friends.
Same.
And the reason I don't is because I don't really participate in the things that friends want to do, right? They want to golf, they want to go to happy hour. There's a bowling league, there's a kickball league, there's fantasy football, there's guys' night, there's name all the shit.
That, yeah, all the things.
My greatest fear, let's go back to the fear side,
Right.
was being a mediocre failure.
Mm.
So in the beginning, anything that held me back, and we could use lacrosse, anything that prevented me from accomplishing my goal, I cut. So my wife will probably joke like nutritionally, supplements, water, sleep. If you tell me something is going to make me better, I'm like, it's already been bought. It shows up tomorrow. And then I'll let you know if it works.
Right. But I will try it.
But I will 100% try it. And so I think what happens with like the leading men, the homecoming kings to everything else, they have a very high social recognition score.
Yeah.
And so if you take the PRF test, which is a really interesting personality mapping test, it places all of these core personality traits as a percentile of everybody that's ever taken it, which is really interesting because, you know, you take the Myers-Briggs or the CVI or whatever, and they're like, you're ENTJ. And you're like, what the hell does that mean?
Wing 4. You're like,
right. You're like, okay, here's what you are on the Enneagram. But in the PRF, if your personality trait is from a 30 to a 70, it's normal. It's a normal range. Doesn't matter if it's 31 or 65, you're in a normal range. If it's over 70 or under 30, it's extreme.
Interesting.
Social recognition, the need for other people's approval and celebration. Mine is a 7.
That's amazing.
So I played defense in college. Your measurement of success is that no one did anything against you. Not that you scored or had 20 ground balls or, you know, did X, Y, and Z. It was, did your guy score? Did he have assists? Did or your team win?
They come across the crease and you end their life.
Right. Are they
and
alive?
That's what you're measured by.
But even it's like, oh, well, I did break the guy's wrist. And they're like, yeah, but he scored on you. And you're like, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So I have a really low social recognition score.
Also known as you don't give a fuck.
Literally, right? Like it's very close to 0 fucks. I would say it's between 0 and 0.25, somewhere in there.
That's awesome.
And so what happens with so many people is like, that is the social reinforcement of I'm doing well. People like me. I'm invited to parties. Well, I threw the parties.
Right.
I didn't get invited to them. I figured out a way to throw them. So I don't need to be invited to something that I'm doing myself.
Exactly. Like I am the party.
I created the parties.
Right.
And so I think that really allowed me to look at kind of a successful life in the eyes of people And
Right.
then also realize that people only want you to be as successful as they are.
Right.
You don't get to be more successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to be within the range that
Right.
doesn't expose
Yeah. Little
my
plus or minus.
weaknesses, right? Like that's as far as you get to go.
No.
And I was not participating in that.
No. Oh, that's good.
And so
Also known as
that's
going
my
off
two
the
cents.
grid, right?
Yeah.
You didn't. I think. Like, by the way, I mean, I say this and I don't, but if there were like a switch somewhere, I know my wife would flip it, but if there were a switch somewhere where I became a normal ass dude, I'd be like, yeah, fucking flip it, dude. like that sounds awesome. Like when people are like, hey, dude, how about fucking Jaden Daniels? I'm like, yeah, let's celebrate a fucking 21-year-old that has no bearing on my life. So Kenya's my chief brand officer, right? And she lives here in Jacksonville. And the guy here that runs the co-working space, he's like just like a guy. He's just like a normal guy. You know what I mean? He just wants to talk about football and shit, right? And I'll know just enough to have a conversation so that I don't make him feel like an idiot. You know what I mean? I'm not too cool. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm building an empire, man. I don't have time for that. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, dude, it's sick, man. So like I had this like conversation with her and she knows where I stand on these things, right? And then she's kind of sitting there like, the fuck, did you like drop a stat? I was like, I think I dropped a stat. Yeah. And then he walks off and it was just kind of this awkward thing. And I go, how'd I do? And she's like, that's fucked up. You know, like, because I really did genuinely connect with
You
him.
had like the AI glasses and they were listening and a stat popped up and you're like,
Right.
pretty crazy completion percentage there, right?
Right.
The guy's
Exactly.
like, that's sick. You're like,
Like, I really don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I am working on all the things that I'm working on. But I think, like you said, those social circles, social constructs, somewhere along the line, something went sideways. Like for me, the bear started chasing me, and it's never going to stop chasing me. Like no amount of money, no amount, like it doesn't stop. Right. So whether Tessie Mays became a $1 company or it did what it did, at what point does Greg Vetter stop? Never. Right. Because it's like, I'm a fucking grizzly bear. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna keep fighting, probably till the day I die. I mean, I try to find moments, and there are a few things that can do that. Like I'll have moments in church, you know, where I'll feel the Holy Spirit and be like, oh, okay, cool. Like
yeah,
you got me. I don't have to do this. My wife, in all her beauty, that definitely does it. You know what I mean? Like when the mood is set, and I'm like, yeah, fuck business, you know. My kids, but there's just like a very short list of things that get me to stop thinking about, in my case, my core, you know what I mean? Or business or leadership or like personal growth. So I was curious, like, you seem psychotic like me, you know, like just completely like things that normal people do. And this is just me speaking. I'm not speaking for you, but I'm like, fuck, we got to do Christmas. Like that's going to take 3 days out of work. I come up for the holidays. I'm in Severna Park and I'm going to fucking Starbucks every day in Severna Park and grinding. My in-laws are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't take the whole week off. Like I'm working on Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? And I will be off on Christmas and I will be right back on it the next day. So I'm curious how you find like ways, one, are you a raging workaholic like I am? And two, have you found ways to like get mind release and
yeah.
like escape from that? Because I haven't quite figured that one out.
So Colin Powell has a really wonderful book. It's called It Worked for Me in Life and Leadership. And there's a whole portion on this thing that he calls the busy bastard.
Oh,
And when he became the Secretary of State, he made a rule that everybody was going to be walking out that door at 5 o'clock.
wow.
And the reason he said that was because he can complete everything he needs to do for that day by between 4 and 5 o'clock, or whenever he does, he leaves.
Right.
The reason he leaves is he needs to preserve his mental capacity and energy for the next day.
That's good.
And what happens with busy bastards is they think that their value system is tied to hours in a
Right.
chair. So once they're done for the day, they're walking around the office, seeing if they can help anybody else or pointing out issues. That creates unnecessary distraction and chaos. So then what I did is I then layered in a way that allowed me to leave, because you're never going to turn your brain off.
Right, right.
But
That's
what,
what I'm. Yeah, like even when I'm off, I'm like,
yeah,
like I'm
but
right. Yeah.
but what you can put in place is a reinforcement metric
Okay.
that everything you did for that day is done. And now your brain must prepare to dominate the next day. And so with that system, I created, and I'm coming out actually with a custom journal for it,
Oh, cool.
but it broke out MIG at the top. What is my most important goal? Then critical and urgent.
Yeah, I watched your video on
Yeah.
this morning, so this
One
is
through
fresh.
five.
Fresh.
Then beneficial important.
Yeah.
Then goals, prayer, fuel, why. So, like a little kind of message to remind yourself why you're grinding.
Right.
The other page, as it's opened up, is your timeline, 7 through whatever time you leave. And then you just have general, very important notes. And then at the top, I would write out every day this one question: are my habits in alignment with are my habits today in alignment with my dreams for tomorrow? So that allowed me, because my most important goal was correct, and I knew that's what I was working for. And I knew that once the critical and urgent and beneficial important was done, that's all I could do that day to get closer to my most important goal. Because I got to fight tomorrow too.
Right.
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 So it's like,
right,
I can't stay up till 2 if I'm going to
right.
wake up at 4.
Totally.
So then basically having this very methodical, easy to read, simple journal process that was my North Star allowed me to check the boxes off every day.
Right.
It's all done. Give a quick walk around or some phone calls to my direct reports. Anything you need from me. Go home. Begin to recharge. Again, brain's never really turning off,
Right. Right. Right.
but you can now focus your energy
Right.
on preparing for the next day, that then allows you to operate at 100%.
Right.
And vacations were always very, very tough. And
Yeah.
I literally didn't take my first full vacation until COVID, because I could bring my computer with me.
Right.
No one knew where I was in the world.
Yeah.
And so I still on vacation have the same morning routine.
Nice.
Wake up super early, journal, read, pray, meditate, ice bath if there's one around, work out, do my deal. And then, what do I have to do today? Plant those seeds.
Right. Right.
And then the rest of the day, I can check back in, at lunch or 2. Is everything done? Is anything else happening? And so does it completely eliminate my ability to just like check out like a regular person?
Right. Right. Never.
No.
Yeah.
But what it allows me to do is then be present
Right.
with my kids and my wife, and give almost the facade that we're on vacation, in that I'm there, and that we're going to go to this thing today and to the beach here.
No.
And it's like, okay, if I can narrow all of that chaos down to owning my morning, a check-in at lunch, a check-in at 3:30, like I've done it for the most part.
That's good. That's a good structure. I'm excited for you to do that journal. I think there's an element there. I'd be curious to hear your take on this too, of faith. Like, we joked when before we started recording, we were talking about being cursing Christians, right?
Yes.
I love how you said that. You were like, because my wife's all the time like, babe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And I love how you said that. You were like, just give me this one thing.
I
Like,
have nothing left to give up. Just leave me alone.
the fuck alone.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. For me, it's like such a, well, when like it's an art, right? And I think it could be a Maryland thing too. Like we just curse,
Yeah.
but we're not angry. Like you go to Philly or New York, it's like they're angry cursing.
Right.
You go in the South, they don't curse.
Right.
You go in the
Bless
Midwest, they're
your
like they've never
heart.
heard it.
Right. Bless your
We're just like, it's just, what'd you say?
in the South. Bless your little heart. That's
Oh,
like us.
right. Yeah.
Bless your
Like,
heart.
bless your heart, which is loaded. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah,
loaded.
and then I can't do the passive aggressive thing, like the Midwest shit. I'm like, just say what the fuck do you feel about it? You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to do that. So there's an art to it, but it's funny because I've had to reel it in, and in certain contexts I can completely
Yeah.
turn it off. Like I'm part of C12, which is a Christian peer advisory group for CEOs. It's awesome. It's high level and it's based on what they call BAM, business as a ministry. So once a month, we go into this all day forum and I just can't curse for a whole day. And I'm just like, especially down here in the South. But last week we had ours for the month and I was telling this story and I was like, I'm just going to tell the story the way that it happened. Right. And I was inspired by you. This is what I wanted to tell you, because like every 4 words is a curse word in your book. And I'm like, fucking yes, like this is awesome. And it doesn't take away from like the heart of it. So very short version. I'm in downtown Jacksonville. It's a nice little area, but there's a not nice little area very close to there. And those lines bleed. It's like West Street in Annapolis. Right. So I'm like leaving. This dude kind of like comes up to my car. He's like, hey man, can you give me a ride? And I'm like, he didn't look homeless. He's like, kind of, he was like yacked out. And I'm like, he didn't look that old. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, how far are you going? He's like, it's like 10 minutes. I said, yeah. And in C12, they're talking about moments where, you just do something that the Holy Spirit has led you to do, random acts of kindness, and I'm like, I got one, theirs were like so nice. Right.
Buddy.
Right. So I'm like, yeah, man. I said, I'll give you a ride. I said, here's the thing though. And I looked him dead in the eyes. I said, if you mess with me, I'm going to fuck you up. Just like that. And I told this story in front of like a dozen, CEOs. And I said, here's the deal. I don't know what this guy's deal is. He might get in the car and try to rob me or, beat me up, take my phone.
Right.
But I just set the tone with him. You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, no, like, nah, we're good, man. I was like, go
for sure. For sure.
For sure. Yeah. So
You're
anyway,
like,
I thought of you. Right.
Hey, brother, I'm here. The Holy Spirit's telling me to help you. But I'm not dying today.
Not dying today. The Holy Spirit's gonna whoop your ass,
Right.
if you fuck with me. And he was not well. I ended up I had like a kind of a nice water bottle that I gave him. He's like, you got any water? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what am I gonna take it back? I'm like,
this is for you.
Yeah, I was like, peace be with you.
Yeah, peace be with you, my guy. There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, well, the reason I was saying all that, I think, was like being authentic, being raw, right? Being undressed, right? Like, I think so few people are willing to do that, and I think it's a big miss. And I think one of the biggest misses in it isn't even just whether like your brand is so authentic. It's like, okay, cool, fuck off. But more so like sustaining the energy that it requires to build something significant, not just linear, make the calls, trade the stocks, amount the thing, sell it off, but like truly compound something of significance. You're going to have to put your heart, soul, guts, tears, blood, like all of you, and then some are going to have to be in this. So have you always been that way? Or is that something that you sort of took the veil off and said, fuck it? You know what I mean? Like I was kind of curious your journey, because in reading that book, it was just raw, unfiltered. And I thought, I wonder if he was always this way or if he had an epiphany at some point.
Yeah, I would say if you were to ask people in middle school or a high school, I've always been very loud, very outspoken, but very positive.
Right, right.
Um, my wife calls it positive intensity.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
I'm cussing, my
Yeah,
voice is loud.
yeah,
It's reinforcement. I'm trying to
yeah,
push you
yeah.
up.
You're a galvanizer. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
like
just
I'm
give
not
them.
right. I'm not screaming at you per se.
Right. I'm
Um,
screaming with you. Yeah.
agree with you,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm a hype man,
Yeah, yeah.
but
You're like Lil John. You're like, okay,
exactly
what?
what? But I will say, realizing that everything was on the line from a business perspective. Let's say I was 80% who I am today as a kid.
Yeah,
There's a 20% social structure that you don't really cross. Like there's a lot of social norms that you're not willing to cross
right.
in terms of follow-ups on phone calls or direct
Right.
conversations
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
yeah.
Leveraging your dad's house, selling everything you have, tying your ego and your identity to a brand,
Right.
standing in grocery stores around the country, realizing that you have done all of this, that breaks through that final 20% and you lose your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I look
Totally.
back on standing in grocery stores and making salad dressing in the middle of the night and driving it and
Right.
having my first child in the back of a car as we're doing, the Ohio, Kentucky freaking grocery store rollout plan in a blizzard, singing
Yeah.
Old McDonald so she'll stop screaming as we're like literally about to die in a blizzard in Ohio. And you're like, I was not all there, I don't think. As
Yeah.
I look back
Something
on it,
was off.
right? Like I broke through into a different level of transcendence.
Right.
And once you do that, which is really Joseph Campbell's hero's journey,
Right.
you don't ever go back to who you once were.
Yeah.
And so it is this kind of upward spiral visual where each level you want to move upward in this video game that you're designing for yourself.
Right.
It's a full hero's journey. And then at the end, before you get to come back a completely different person, every test that you've had on the previous levels gets thrown in your face, and you get to decide whether or not you're going to pass those tests.
Right.
And if you don't pass them, you start the level over again. And the higher you go up, the crazier the tests are.
Right.
And the more you're tested, and you literally think it's going to get easier. You're like, the tests are going to be easier. I'm going to be battle tested.
Right.
I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to be wiser. I got gray hair now.
Right.
Like I don't drink like I used to drink.
Yep.
I don't go out like I used to. Like
Yep.
I'm really dialed in and prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then God goes, you think?
Right.
Well, we're going to see how far you're going to go, brother. Because I am going, I'm literally reading right now The Dark Night of the Soul by St. John of the Cross.
Yeah.
And if you want to understand the final, I don't know what the percentage is because that would mean I have actual awareness
Infinite intelligence
of where I am in the
right.
journey of my own life.
Right.
But the tests, the purification process,
the refinement,
the refinement, the polish, the purge.
No.
And then that is going to determine where you get to go.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to stay put here in whatever level of the game you're in.
Nope.
And that part is a process that, going all the way back to a previous statement of like the leading men, they're not built for that shit, man.
Nah, dude.
And most people are not.
It's because they're used to becoming something, and this is an unbecoming process, right? They know how to construct, but it is a deconstruction. And who the fuck wants to do that? You know what I mean? You have to be the kill to your ego. Yet you have to like yourself the entire time somehow.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, ah, shit. You know what I mean? Like, I just got my rights read to me. I mean, the other night, like, we went to a marriage night with our church. I'm like, it's fucking vibing, dude. You know, this is awesome. It's like wholesome. We were like, okay, they're definitely not going to let us drink, so we'll drink on the way there. So I have a cider. I'm not a big drinker, but you know, I'll get a original sin Black Widow
There you
six
go.
pack.
I've had
Lasts
that.
me like 2 weeks, you know. So because I just one just gets me feeling like date night, you know.
Right.
So I peel around the corner. The pastor's out there. He's a super cool guy. I did an episode with him last, and I'm like driving in, and I go like this, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, oh shit, I'm like drinking and driving.
Right. You're like,
Yeah, I'm like, Chad, I'm like,
let's rip tonight, brother. He's like,
it's like, what are you doing? Yeah,
you're not
I mean, we're
allowed in here, dude.
right. I'm a big like I live in the world, but not of the world, but I do live in it. You know,
Right.
so and my wife and I are, you know, this is good time, good food. We're like, yeah, this is great. Total fight after that, right? And like, and it was she told me for good reason. I liked what you said about the positive intensity because I aim to have a relaxed intensity, which is sort of akin to that. But I guess we were talking with this couple and I don't know, I just sort of like I didn't mean to, but I kind of like just snapped back at him, you know what I mean? And was sort of like, oh well, what you said because he like kind of like shut me down a little bit.
Right.
And I was like, but that was you said that was fucked up because like you asked me the question. You know what I mean? Like I hate that shit. Like don't ask me the thing. And then when I go tell you the thing, you go, oh no, no, no. And it's like, well, which one is it? I'm fine with either. Like I'm cool with either situation.
Yeah.
And then I had this moment where I went, all right, I think this is like this is what humility is, right? Like I have to just eat shit right now, right? So I just was like, and it wasn't like a yes, dear. You know, it was a genuine like, yeah, you know, I want my response time to be better. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to have visceral reactions to shit like that because guys like you, guys like me, and especially you have the stature. I'm 5'11, you know, 215. But I got the wrestler in me. I'm one of
Yeah.
6 boys, you know,
Yeah.
like my dad is an alpha.
Yeah. Say no
Wolf.
more. Say no
Yeah,
more.
like so like little turns where it's like, huh? To
Right.
guys that aren't literally so shit, you're gonna attack me?
It's like,
Yeah. It's just like fucking jokes.
right.
And the irony, this is the irony. I think you might be able to relate to this. Is like we know that the reason our wives chose us over a millions of other dudes, you know what I mean, that were suitors, is because of this one trait.
Right.
It's like, yeah, right, right. It's the like, it's when you put your hand on your wife's neck like this. You know what I mean? And, right. So, yet somehow we have to possess it's the Jordan Peterson sheathed sword, right? It's like
Yeah.
they want you to be a complete
Right.
animal that is in full control all the time. And I'm like, I don't know that I could do that if I had a cider. You
Right.
know, like
Well, it's the warrior in the garden, you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why don't you go get those carrots for me? And like you walk out, you
Yeah.
finish lifting, you're wearing a pistol on your belt, you're like in the garden, just getting these vegetables for your family and
I can imagine like a branch getting in your way, just
right.
fucking attack it. Yeah.
Throw it like a javelin.
Like throw the carrot into the basket. Oh, that's good. So yeah, that intensity, it's what a journey it is to unbecome to a place of truly being responsive and not reactive, truly having faith that it's taken care of. Like that's like a whole nother level of leadership, right? That
It it is a level that I don't know many people, like maybe I can count them on one hand, maybe, because again, you have to be willing, we can use the book title to undress,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to be willing to deconstruct.
Right.
And that runs in complete contradiction to everything that was required to get to
Right.
this point. And you're like, but I took mediocrity,
Right.
my hand I was given,
Yep.
I turned it into something.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard.
It's very hard.
And now I'm trying to continue down this path, but you want me to basically, it's like a freaking Buddhist sand painting, right? Like you've spent 20 years on the intricacies of this sand. And they're like, and now for you to move on, get rid of it all.
Right.
And there's a moment where you're just looking at it and you're like,
right.
I mean, I guess that's like, I'm still moving forward. I still want to move forward. These are the same beliefs I had. I guess that's what I need to do.
Right.
But can I take a minute and take it all in? And
right.
God's like, no.
Yep.
You can, but you're never moving on. The door's closing. And I think that for me has been really difficult to, I've done it.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Doing
really,
it real time.
But when you talk about hard shit, building people up's way easier. Because you're like, dude, set the alarm.
Yeah.
Take an ice bath. Use my
Get
journal.
the fuck up.
Read my book.
Yeah, buy my course, bro. Buy my book.
Walk in nature. Get sunlight. You're like, do this shit. You're going to be great.
Yeah.
And then the secret is like, all right, so you do that. You
Right.
build this magnificent life. They're like, uh-huh. You're like, every dream comes true. They're like, amazing. How's the family? Family is amazing.
Right.
They're going to look to you like you're a superhero. You're like, okay, cool. Yeah, what else? And then you're going to have to basically destroy it all and move on. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And you got to be confident in faith, in the journey, in yourself,
right,
in your ability to basically recreate yourself forever.
Yeah, man.
And that's the heavy shit. And I've been using this example. There's this great documentary. It's like Just One More Lap or something like that. This Navy SEAL, it's a race in Tennessee, and it's a 1 mile loop, like up a mountain, down a mountain. You run past your camp. There's no end. The end of the race is whenever the last person is standing.
Wow. Yeah.
That is the business journey to me.
Yep.
Because you hear it's a marathon. No.
Right. No.
You can train for a marathon.
Yep.
You
Marathons are only 26.2 miles.
You know the distance of a marathon.
Right.
You know the shape you must be in, the weight you must be in, the shoes you should be wearing, the terrain.
And they're cheering you the whole time. Nobody's talking shit. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's almost impossible to train for a race that you don't know the distance. You can do 80% of that job, right? But there's going to be 20% where you're like, dude, last year it was only 85 miles. I'm on 110. We're out of food.
Yep.
Right? Like, what am I going to do?
Greg, it's biblical too, man. You know, the Bible says that we are to finish the race, right? It doesn't say, not finish as in, end the marathon, but that we keep running, not that we win, right? So most people go, oh God, you told me I have to win the race, or you told me that I'm going to win the race. Like, no, you just have to keep running. You have to keep running. I think the other part that's really hard too is that some years, some seasons, you have to walk, and it's like I'm not much of a walker. I'm more of a jogger. I would much rather
Silent J.
run right now.
Right.
Right. So like those seasons when you're waiting, brutal, right? Like the sleepless nights of like, all right, this, and you're running all the scenarios, right? Like, okay, because you have all these if thens, right? It's like, okay, if the finance pros fucking come at me again, you know what I mean? And Coach Fred, and I got like all, I know they're all made up names, but these were real stories that you had to if then them all. And you have 2 or 3 scenarios. You hope this one happens. It's probably not going to happen. Like, let's be honest. So tier 2, this is just shit. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I really appreciated about your story, and full transparency, I have 2.5 hours left in the book, and I was like, fuck, I really wanted to finish this before. So, maybe you can spoiler alert it a little bit. So Wolf of Wall Street, right? Not really my exact cup of tea, but an epic movie. And my favorite part of the movie is when he goes to resign, and then he's like, I'm not fucking leaving. Like,
dude, that's my favorite gift with the microphone.
Yes, that's that same. Me and my COO send each other to it daily. It's like, yeah, it'll take a wrecking ball. And there's like, I think people don't build into the fabric of their company, their venture, their nonprofit, enough of their DNA. I mean, Tessie Mays was named after your mother, right? Like it is like there, you know what I mean? Like what would a son do for their mother? You know what I mean? Yeah. What would a person do for their family, their kin? And for me, it's like, there's no quitting. Like that was never an option. Like you would have to fucking shoot me in the head, for me to quit. Does it mean that it won't fail? It may fail, but not because I quit. It will fail because it wasn't God's plan, that kind of thing. So I just was curious, like your take on and thoughts around like really infusing, because for some people, and to each their own, you spoke to this too in the book, like they're just doing their job, and their job might be business job, and it looks like they give a shit, but they don't give a shit, because you can go, wait, this isn't really like ingrained in who you are. Yeah. And those are the worst fucking people to deal with, right? Because they're playing the game, putting the pieces in place, and you have to interact with these people that are business people, and they don't give a shit even remotely as close as you do.
Well, and they're going to have a new job in a year, and like they don't give a shit if they ruin your life in the process. And
right. And you can see it on LinkedIn. And my COO Tony and I talk about this all the time. He's from Maryland also. He went to Maryland, and it's so funny to watch people. This is not going to be nice, but celebrate the change to another job, particularly in tech. Because I'm like, why is everyone celebrating them fucking quitting or failing? You know what I mean? And everyone's like, that is so awesome. Congrats. We're so happy to have you. We loved this season that you were here. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with that, dude.
That was a tough one for me, was when people would leave and you consider them a part of your family and you sacrifice everything for their salary to get there. And,
right.
That's a lot of the stuff that people don't really understand, is when someone leaves unexpectedly, especially unexpectedly, you're like, do you have any idea what I did?
Right.
To keep you here? Like, I was going to the board. They wanted to fire you because you haven't hit your metric in a year.
Right.
And I have battled for you this entire time. And when I need you the most and shit is hitting the fan and you have the list up of everybody and their salaries and their roles and you're fighting for this person, and then you finalize the list and you fire all the people you got to, and you, dude, I fought for you. Oh yeah, no, I'm out, bro.
I've been out, actually. I was just waiting. I was waiting. It's like
I hired a recruiter 6 months ago, and you're like,
right. Oh.
Okay. Well, you're dead to me.
Right.
We'll speak your name with venom for as long as I live. you know,
You're, you're lucky I know 3 other Ryans, or I would literally never use your name again.
and honestly, like the biggest part of the development, I go to this Friday men's group, which I didn't used to go to at all. Like I wasn't super religious growing up, but this journey, I found God in the process.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
And initially it was like, yeah, you got to forgive your enemies. I was like, fuck that.
Yeah. You're like, I'm cool with the other
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm cool with all this shit.
Yeah. Jesus totally died for my sins. Fuck that.
No,
You're cool.
no,
You're cool.
not
Fuck you.
doing it. And it took me, I'm not kidding you, it took me 2.5, 3 years of going to this thing every Friday.
By the way, you don't go to somebody's house, do you?
Yeah, I do.
I used to go to that group, I think.
Oh, nice. In Annapolis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know Darren? Do you know Darren?
Yeah.
Darren's my dude, man. I get a text from him all the time. I know you do too.
Yeah, of course.
So before I moved, that's funny because we must have been ships crossing in the night. I would go to that right on the back porch at I forget his name that owns the house. Kevin. That's funny, man. Yeah, I went to that for like 2 years and then moved down here.
Yeah. Yep. So, but it was funny because I bring it up. I'm like, and now I've forgiven my enemies.
Right.
I've written them letters, letting them know that in my heart, I have forgiven them and I'm praying for them. And people are like, dude, that's gross,
yeah,
man.
It's gross. That's gross.
I can't believe it. Never saw that coming. I'm like, you never saw it coming. I had like maps.
I had red yarn.
They go to this gym at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays.
Fucking, you're like staking out with a black hat.
Right. I'm in a fucking white van with no window.
No windows. It's like, Greg, they were in AE for 3 months.
Right. It doesn't matter. They broke my heart.
They broke my heart. I'm that way. I'm like, you don't escape the cult. Like you're always part of it. Like, oh, that's good, man. As you were talking about just that undressing, that unbecoming, that deconstructing, and that sheathed sword, the warrior in the garden, I couldn't help but think of Jesus the whole time, right? Because that's what makes him the boss, is that he's going through these 33 years, and particularly like when his ministry really started booming, which was all the craze. And then like in that moment on the cross, imagine being God. Like you are God. You know what I mean? You're not like, I got a lifeline to God. Like you are God. And you're like these fucking people. You know what I mean? As they nail you to the cross. Imagine being like this fucking guy. You know what I mean? And you like hear him over there like talking some bullshit. And you're God. You know what I mean? And they just nailed you in your foot. And you're like, that hurt. So
like, dude, you fucked up, man. I really hope you ask for forgiveness because this is fucked up. I'm just gonna
right. So let
you got to do it.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Right.
Right. This is a problem. Long term, this is a problem.
This is not going to end well.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that he didn't talk any shit. I'd have been talking shit. Like the one guy on my right that was like, don't forget me. I'd be like, dude, I got you. This fucking guy, though, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be back in 72 hours. Like, not like in the future. Like, in 3 days from now, I'm going to read you your rights. So that, for me, is like, it's an oversimplification, but it's not. It's the, like, basic WWJD. Like, it's like, what would Jesus do? And I fail every single time. But that's where I think people look at Christianity, they look at faith walks, and it's not a life plan. It's not, rich young ruler, like, oh, let me get better, but like a genuine, what would Jesus do? And that's when I gauge myself to that, it's just like constant failure.
Yep.
Which could just make you feel like shit all the time. But then you get grace, and that's the craziest moment too. Like for me in my faith journey, like I will go pretty long periods of time without asking for forgiveness. Like a while, you know what I mean? Like it might be like months, and then I'll be like, oh my God, like, dude, my bad. You know what I mean? Like I have been this, that. I've done this, that. And even though, like you said, with the cursing, my this and that's have changed to like I'm like, sorry for being impatient, God. You know what I mean? Like, where it used to be like, sorry for some other shit. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's
Sorry for
relative, but does
choking
that help
dude out
keep
at
me
the bar. I didn't mean
right?
to headbutt the other guy in the face.
Right. Right.
Please, just
So this is cool. So your faith journey, and I know it shares more in the book. Laura was telling me, but that's a newer part of your life experience.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic, going to Sunday school almost as like a tribute to my grandparents. And then once we got confirmed, my parents were like, yeah, you can choose whether or not you go to Sunday school again. I was like, no, not going.
Deuces. Yeah. I'll take option B.
Yeah, I'm going to be underage drinking and doing God knows what else happens in high school.
Right.
And so then, did the whole college and start a business. And, there's something up there. What is it? I don't know.
Right.
Do you believe in God? Yes, I do. What does that mean to you? I don't know what that means.
Right.
And then, you go through this journey. And what really happened for me was I had this kid I met on the first day of school, in first grade, who had some type of special needs or something. And he basically, in that moment, just like attached to my hip. Wow. And called me every single day of my life. Has anyone ever called you 365 days a year since you were in first grade? Now, I didn't pick up every time because, like,
right.
Yep, I'm going to give him 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then he ended up working for us because he was a paper boy and got fired. So then he worked up with us forever. And then out of the blue during COVID, he got cancer and he died. Ugh. And didn't tell anybody how severe it was. And I got a voicemail from his dad one day, and it was just like, hey, Johnson died. So I called him and I was like, I must have misunderstood what is being said here. I was texting with him 2 days ago, and he goes, the reason he hasn't called you is the cancer moved to his brain and now he can't speak. So that's why he's only been texting you for the past 2 months. And he's texting normal shit. Like, did you see the Orioles game? Are you going to the high school reunion?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I sat there and I thought about this man who had never done any of the things that I had done, right? Never had a girlfriend, never got married, never had kids, never had kind of a real job, lived with his parents. And I just go, there better be a fucking heaven, man.
Yeah, dude.
Because let me fucking tell you what. If this dude died and he's not going somewhere better, I'm going to be fucking pissed.
Right.
So then randomly I run into this one guy, Greg Carranzlis. We played lacrosse against each other.
Does he go to that group?
Yeah.
I think I know who he is. Yeah.
And we saw each other. He's like, hey, you should come to this group. I'm like, I'm not fucking going to some group. Like, what are you talking about? But then I was kind of doing my own research on the side. I was reading books from C.S. Lewis, and I'm just kind of doing a bunch of research. And Jordan Peterson's on the come up at the time.
Yeah.
And so then I thought to myself, like, what's it gonna hurt? I mean, I've stood in fucking grocery stores, like,
doing demos.
Go up to some random ass group for 1 hour and then never go back ever again if it's a bunch of psychos.
Right.
And so I showed up and I'm like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation. Normal people.
Right.
And then I've gone ever since. And awesome. You begin that kind of curiosity quest. And the more research you do, unlike other things,
Right.
the more I bought in,
Yeah.
the
Amen.
better I felt,
Yep.
the better I became, the more I believed, the more I read, the more I thought that it really was a missing piece of this Tessie Mae's journey, because forever, I mean, you've read a lot of the book. It was like I was bending the
Yeah, dude.
universe to my
All
will
right. That's good.
instead of having unwavering faith in
Yeah.
the journey.
Yeah.
And so I'm making shit happen that probably shouldn't have happened.
Nope.
And
Finagle City. Yeah.
dude, and because I just was like
Right.
manifesting it, like painting, I
Yeah.
can paint and
Right.
draw and shit. So I'm like
Cool.
painting my dream and I'm writing it 500 times
Yeah.
and I'm working out in silence,
Yeah.
thinking about it, like
Yeah.
harnessing vibrational frequency,
Yeah.
and then shit would happen. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
what it takes.
Law of attraction.
Let's
Yeah. Thoughts
fucking,
become
I'm
things.
fucking dialed in,
Uh,
taking the microphone into my
I'm not fucking.
yeah, like, "Ugh." And then those things would happen, and in the moment you're like, best news ever.
Right.
6 months later, horrible news. Or a year later, worst news.
Right.
Or 2 years later, you look back on that moment and you're like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
it was not supposed to happen. And I fucking forced that
Forced
shit.
it. Yep.
And now I'm in this situation
Yep.
because that relationship was never supposed to come to fruition. And I made it come to fruition. And because of that, I'm paying the consequences. And so that to me is really the ultimate
Right.
test
Yeah, man.
of, oh man, like I got to go off somebody else's timeline.
Right.
I got to suffer for this amount of time.
Yep.
Like, can I just fucking manifest this shit myself?
Right. Right.
And the answer is, yeah, you can.
You absolutely can.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've got great news. For that minute in the next
Yep.
month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, you're going to think you're a fucking genius.
Yep.
And then I've got very bad news.
Yep.
That singular moment is going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, man. That's great, Greg. That's rich. Yeah, man. I grew up in faith, so I have a lot of foundation. And then I became self-reliant
Yep.
because I realized my parents, who had this one thing like totally right, they couldn't put it together in the real world.
Right.
So their fruit didn't match their root,
Right.
and I was like, something's off here. And I thought, well, I'm fucked, if I don't do something. So by age 10, I was a full-blown adult. And then I locked into school, locked into sports. I had never even seen the inside of a school until 7th grade. My parents homeschooled us, which was no-schooled us.
Right.
I could barely read or write. 6 years later, I'm getting handwritten letters from the coaches at Harvard and Stanford and Penn. And I went to Penn and wrestled there. So I'm an Ivy League student and a Division I athlete. And I'm white trash, beach, OC, fucking, local, like hair down to here.
Like the best version of white trash.
Like the coolest, right? And if you're going to be white trash, do it in OC because you're like a gypsy and nobody even knows. You're just wearing board shorts and a t-shirt and you're just like,
You're
dude,
just some
chill.
badass that knows like the best restaurants.
Right. And like everyone's like, yeah, like, we work at Fager's. We don't go to Fager's, like I met my wife at Fager's, interestingly. But I say all that to say that I then was like, this passport to heaven, this fire insurance I have is awesome. And I will totally check in like when shit goes sideways. But I had a 10-year journey where, it was just not a living, breathing part of my life. If I had dropped dead, I'd have been fine. When moments arose, I was like, yeah, like that's true, by the way. You should really look into that, and so I was always like solid. I never went sideways, but it wasn't a living, breathing part of my life. And my shit completely failed. My marriage failed, my business failed, my body failed. I mean, it was bad news. And I had a re-encounter in 2015. And the thing that I love about God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit is he's just a super custom dude. Like you've got the whole fucking universe in your palm, and then you like pursue Greg. You know what I mean? You pursue Nathan, and you do it in the most like impeccable way. I had an actual encounter where I like practically wrestled the pastor. It was wild, dude, which I'm a wrestler. I fucking grapple, you know what I mean? And he's like praying for me and goes, hugs me. And I'm kind of like, let's fucking go. I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, I just drop and hit the ground.
Whoa.
It was radical. I actually haven't told anyone really the story because it's just kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like for a second, I think people thought like, is he attacking the pastor? But he was an athletic dude, and he hugged me. And I can't even remember what he said, but it was definitely like the Holy Spirit. It was pretty much just like, you ain't shit, Nathan. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't shit. And I was like, I ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like, I hit the ground. But the craziest part is that started the journey. I had to rebuild my identity all over again. And it took years. I mean, it took from 2015 till, I mean, I've only kind of sort of had my shit together for like 3 or 4 years now. I'm 36. So I say all that to say that guys like you, when they come to faith, set off an alarm in hell,
Yeah.
right? And the devil, there's a real spiritual war. I mean, yeah, there's spiritual warfare anywhere. I'm not discounting the nice guy that has always known the truth that isn't doing a whole lot about it. But the polarizing character that is you, that becomes like you're like America's Most Wanted. You become like the blacklist. You know what I mean? Like you're now all of a sudden on the hit list of the enemy. And
100%.
I think it's awesome, man, that you're doing what you're doing, that you're walking out what you're walking out, and like championing for the faith in the midst of all of it. I just wanted to encourage you and commend you in that, because that's not for the faint of heart.
It really isn't. Sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, do I just love being fucking punished?
Yeah,
Like, is this
yeah,
ever going to get easy?
yeah, yeah, man. And I think when you get to, and I'm saying this, real time, like when I stopped battling, it's the core of what you were saying there is so important, because God created us to co-create.
Yeah.
He made us in his image. We're his greatest creation.
Yeah.
Fuck the Grand Canyon, fuck the Niagara Falls, the stars, the constellations. They ain't shit compared to a human being, right? And you just have to have children to know that, when you're just like, what the fuck? How did that happen? You know what I mean? Like my part was like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like
On
her
a good day.
on a good day. Her part was 9 months, and that shit came out. People are like, how are you? Do not believe in God? You know what I mean? Like, so you do get to co-create. Like the laws of the universe exist, good or bad. I say it this way: if you jump off this building, whether you're a good person, a bad person, a believer, a non-believer, a Jew, a Gentile, you're gonna hit the fucking ground, because that's how gravity works, right? So when God created the universe, he put these laws in place, and you can keep manifesting even if it's for good, because you're employing people and you're telling a story and you're championing for fucking salad dressing, or organic, or you're feeding the Holy Spirit kids, or like, which is ironic, by the way, that you were literally you know inspired by a school called the Holy Spirit. Like, I love that shit. I'm like, this is uncanny. But now that you have the Holy Spirit in you and you are a new creation, it changes the way you co-create
Yep.
because you are now co-pilot. Like you're
Yep.
passenger at best. I'm getting to the point where I'm like, yo, duct tape me, tie me up, and put me in the fucking trunk, dude. I don't even want to have access to the radio anymore. You lead this shit. So anyway, I just want to encourage you in that, man, because I think that's way cool that you're on this journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there are people out there like myself that have found a way to walk out these two things. Like I was not going to stop being who I was. And I can be polite. Like I could go into a group like the one on Friday morning or C12. I'm not an animal. You know what I mean? I can be like, so good to see you guys. How'd you hit him? How did you hit him? You know, like, because you guys are all going fucking golfing after this. I know you are, you know, so, like half of them literally golf on Friday.
I know.
They're great guys, fucking great. But I struggle in those environments because I'm like, I am a caged animal, you know what I mean, at all times. But keep being who you are, man. Like it's inspiring me. Like I'm finishing out the first book that I hope to write called Lead with Who. And I'm like, fuck it, dude. I'm talking the way I talk because that's how I actually fucking talk. You know what I mean? Like, and more people have come to me and said, Nathan, I have been exploring my faith. I have been like looking, like, I think the rawness of the battle that is being a believer needs to be talked about more than just how hunky dory it is now that your soul is, you know, sanctified.
I totally agree. And I feel like I'm like a common man translator for all that shit. You know?
That's a good way to put it. So what he was saying was,
right. I'm like, yeah, dude, like just put him in the heart, brother. You know, like you're gonna feel better is what he's really trying to say.
the way you looked was perfect. It's so funny, man.
He's going a little crazy over there. I don't actually know what he's saying. I'm new to this shit, but
right.
What I think he's saying is,
yeah. Don't be a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Forgive your enemies, dude. I'm telling you, took me a while.
Oh, man, that's awesome. I'm one of 9 children, but it's 6 boys, 3 girls. So I think that the other aspect is if you grow up where the elements are challenging, you know, the cards that were dealt with you. But if you have other boys and men around you, I mean, you're not going to be soft. Like
No.
there's moments where I'm like with my baby, you know what I mean? Or with my, you know, like my daughters, but I mean, they're pretty few and far between. That's just not who I am. So the softening of your heart through your faith walk is such an interesting journey too, because you become this like mush, but then you're also like, I will fuck you up. You know what I mean? So where do I find, and that's why that little story is like an interesting moment where I was like, okay, I want to help this person genuinely and do my Christian Good Samaritan duties.
Yeah.
But also I will fuck this dude up if he messes with me.
Right. As you load the weapon.
Right. Just like, hey, get on in.
Hey, bud, I got my concealed carry just as a heads up. Come on in.
Come on. This is
I
Florida,
the Holy
man.
Spirit. I'm trying to help you, bud. He's like, I'm not fucking getting in that car.
Man. Right. So, okay, I know most of the story, and you don't have to spoiler alert it for me. What I'm kind of curious about, because I know I appreciate your time, like what's next, right? So you've been to the mountaintop, and it's not as sexy as everyone probably thought when they went down aisle fucking 4, you know, and picked out their Tessemae's, you know, dressing. So you were in the fight, in the fray, and you can hear it in the tone of your voice, right? Because there's like these seasons where you go, that was probably a nice 6 months.
Yeah.
That was a nice year. And everybody else, except for you, and maybe your brothers, but particularly you, knew that it's fucking coming. You know what I mean? Like, I know how much fucking debt we're hemorrhaging right now.
Winter is coming.
We're exactly right. Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Like, you just knew that it was a matter of time. And you're creating, you're manifesting, but you must have known, right, that I'm not that powerful. You know what I mean? Like, I pulled this off by the hair on my chinny chin chin,
Yep.
but like at some point, you're not in the flow
Right.
state that you could get there without
Yeah.
Christian belief, but you ought to learn who
Yeah.
constructed this whole thing. So shit goes sideways in a way that even Greg Vetter can't, fix,
Right.
manifest, finagle.
Right.
And now you're building, maybe rebuilding, but from this position of strength and story. Like, what's next for you, man? What's on the roadmap? And I say that differently, like, because if I weren't a believer, I'd be asking you what your fucking plan is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no one gives a shit about your plan, because the truth is we're just walking out a destiny that was predetermined for us that we have to 100% step into, which is ironic because we 100% don't get to choose it. And we 100% have to choose it all at the same time. So do you feel like God's and yourself and the combination thereof have a journey? Or are you kind of open? Like, what's on the roadmap?
Yeah. So I think the book was the first piece where I didn't want to write a book.
Yeah.
And I approached it with faith of, if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, I don't really give a shit. Like, why would I want to write a book about how fucking stupid I am? And then put a naked cover,
Which is awesome,
basically naked on the cover, which also came to me, like that whole thing. And usually I use the phrase, I had a vision, but I had been praying for what's the title? Is this actually going to happen? What's the deal? Right. And the whole thing just dropped into my head while I was in the sauna at 4:30 in the morning.
That's good.
And it was a gift from God. And it was
divine
like,
download, man. It's
dude.
Good.
And it was like, here's what it's going to be. You're going to basically be naked. You're going to have a box over your junk. You're going to be totally fucked up. You're going to have arrows in you. Yeah. And the book's going to be called Undressed. That's great. And I was like having an argument with myself in the sauna. I go, I'm not doing that. I'm not fucking, that's not, no. Yeah. I'm going to have a primary colors, and there's going to be undressed, and there's going to be a roller coaster cartoon or a mountain. And
the ups and downs. Yeah.
Right. And so I think the first thing was the book.
Yeah.
The impact I'm having when speaking to people about the messaging is the first time in my life I have felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. Everything else was manufactured for money or ego or to change my stars or to prove that I'm an insider and not an outsider. Yeah. And so I've taken that and I've started doing, I coach a couple CEOs that are in the kind of aggressive entrepreneurial state. That's one thing. Yeah. And then the next thing that I'm doing starting in May is I'm going to start doing retreats. I live on a 120 acre farm.
Nice.
And
where are you? Are you in Maryland?
Yeah, I'm in West River.
Nice.
And I'm going to start doing retreats, which is like the first one's going to be finding optimal, which is combining the nutritional, spiritual, physical, mental, business, right, all these components into finding your optimal self and output.
Cool.
Because you can't do one without all of them. And people think that you can. Right. And that is where they get that shit wrong.
Right. Totally.
And if you have an understanding that you don't get to not work out, I don't give a fuck what you're training for. Yeah. A healthy mind does not live in an unhealthy body.
Yep.
So you sleeping in and pretending that you don't have to do it because you're
Right.
not training for a marathon. You're supposed to be prepared
Right.
for life,
Yep.
for your family, for
Yep.
your kids. You're supposed to lead by example. These
Yes.
habits translate into anything you're doing in the world. So I don't want to hear your shit of,
Right. Right.
I didn't lift this morning because I don't like lifting. Okay, so if someone comes and attacks your family, what are you going to
Right.
say? Yeah, I just haven't been lifting, man. So
Skip legs day. Yeah.
if you could not do that, that'd be
Right.
great. That's not how it works.
Yeah, man.
So retreats, I'm doing some consulting work for brands. I'm doing some coaching stuff. And then
Cool.
we also have like 6 different businesses that I started or I'm a large shareholder in
Cool.
that has happened basically over the course of the last couple of years. So running those and then really focusing more on what I feel like my purpose is now.
Yeah. That's exciting, man. I'm here for it. We'll have to connect more. We launched the MyCore Academy, and it's kind of like the one piece, the one brand that's like outside of our world.
Yeah.
That people can become part of and get around the culture without being employed or
Yeah.
being kind of a MyCoreite. But it's based on a formula that you kind of were speaking to there, which is mindset plus skill set plus tool set equals asset. And it just helps me kind of compartmentalize where everything is, right? And it's an oversimplification because there's a spiritual component to that really is probably first. I mean, it is first, or it's like spirit set. Don't really sound right, but I think in this time that we're in, 2025 and beyond, communities being redefined, and I think, like we talked about with Facebook, that's like a 20-year, 2-decade window where I think we're coming back full circle, and we're saying like, well, that sucked. Like I thought we were connected to all these people because we had access to them and we saw their life unfold since that one time I met them on that one vacation and we became Facebook friends. And now I watch them get married, divorce, have kids. But people are more depressed than they've ever been. And it's because they're under the illusion that they're connected, but really they're looking for these smaller communities, these smaller groups. It's like the Friday morning, men's group. Like that's life giving, right? Like you get to a point where you build that habit. You're like, no, I have to be there.
Yeah.
Like I have to be there. So yeah, man, I'd love to see how our worlds can cross more. And because the companies, I've just got a great executive team and things have sort of been, I don't know, taking off. My bandwidth has opened up. So I'm much more focused on media, content creation, the podcast. So yeah, I think there's cool ways that we can connect because I like the way you think and you're fucking hilarious. So it's just fun. People, you need levity and all that because it's like you have these intense, real responsibilities as a man, as a person. And if you can't bring levity to it, you just lose your shit, So I love
You will lose your shit. You will lose your shit.
All right. I think it's a balance, and you strike this. It's kind of the relaxed intensity thing where in one moment, truly, it is the end of the world. Like you're like, dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
And then equally, who fucking cares, dude? You know what I mean? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? The whole thing goes to shit.
Right.
We still have our families.
Right.
We still have our personalities. We still have our natural faculties. We're not freaking in a wheelchair. I haven't lost life or limb.
Right.
So I think people either don't take it seriously enough, or they take it too seriously, and it's some combo thereof that you just possess that.
100%.
Yeah. And now as a believer, that's going to unlock a whole nother realm
Yeah.
of leadership, right? Where you're like, because I said this yesterday, I have a guy, it's a cool story, man. He's a freaking stud. This guy's a fucking beast. And I'm like, I mean, like, just candidly, there's very few people that I meet that I'm like, oh shit, like word, and like you're one of them, you know what I mean? And then this guy's one of them. And I mean, like, they're all, as we know, I'm inferior to everyone in one way or another. But he came across a video of mine. He lives here in Jacksonville. He's had 3 successful exits. His company was just acquired. He turned down, I don't know if he'd want me to say this, but he turned down a large amount of money from the company that he stayed on for a while, and was like, I'm not going 200 flights. I'm not doing it anymore. And he's like, dude, I want to like get involved with what you're doing. I was like, dude, yes. Like, I'd be honored. We have no fucking money for you. Right? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need money. I'm like, oh, so you're going to work for free? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm really not messing with the cap table right now. He's like, yep, I'm good. I'm like, dude, and he's like, I just see it. I know what you're doing. And I said, I want to be super clear with you, though. And we talked about our faith. I said, I just want you to know that all my core is a big bait and switch for the kingdom. And he's like, I'm even more in. I was like, cool, man. I was like, I just want to be super fucking clear. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck about the business aspect of the business, but due to stewardship,
Right.
we're going to grow the dopest business ever. But the only reason this is to advance the kingdom, And he's like, I'm all in. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I think God's going to use you he's using you in really cool ways.
I'll take it. It's not easy, but I'll take it.
Yeah. And you can't unsee it, So now you've crossed over. It's not a idea of the month, or it's like, fuck, like, I got to deal with this now, It's cool, man. I've enjoyed chatting with you today. I've learned a lot. I've got good notes too.
Nice.
Let me know about those retreats too. I come up to Maryland, for family. Both my wife and I are from there, but I'm actually due. I've been looking like it the next few weeks. I might come up there, so I'll ping you or something.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get together with you, and I'd be interested in those retreats and some of that kind of coaching, and love to keep picking your brain.
All right, man. Well, thank you for having me, and let's stay in touch.